Okay, so this is the most pirated games in February 2017. First of all, keep in mind this video is for informational and educational purposes only, and if you like it, support the developers and buy it for a fair price. We got a new number one, and this literally slipped in at the very end of the month, the 28th of February, Just Cause 3. Big Denuvo game, obviously, from quite some time ago now, actually.
Yeah, it's definitely a while ago.
I remember actually first playing this at EGX in 2000, what was it, 15 it must have been. Really interestingly, the game that is at number 2 was actually cracked on the same day, also on the 28th of February, and that is Mad Max. This is another game, actually, that was sort of partially cracked, but we only include games that are fully cracked in the list. If there's a lot of faffing around involved, or if it takes a bit of effort to get it working, then we don't include it in the chart. So Just Cause 3 and Mad Max, basically for the first time, have both been fully cracked, and even though this wasn't done until the last day of February, they're the number 1 and 2 most pirated games of the month, which just goes to show you actually how, even though they're really, really old, there's still a great deal of demand for them, or indeed a demand for the pirated versions. Especially as you can pick, I mean, Mad Max in particular is really, really cheap now as well. Number 3, no surprises, The Sims 4 City Living.
It's been there a while now, hasn't it?
I'm assuming they're releasing new DLC, and that's what's keeping them alive, I suppose.
I can't see how else. I mean, it's really old now, isn't it?
Yeah, The Sims 4 is really getting on a bit now. Number 4, this was a new entry. Oh no, sorry, this is a new entry this month. This was actually cracked on the 5th of February. Battlefield 1. This is basically the single-player portion of the game, as far as I'm aware, is all that is working in the cracked copy, which we actually reviewed and gave it 80%. It's a surprisingly decent single-player campaign. I actually really enjoyed playing through that. And of course, it's a big EA Denuvo title. The multiplayer doesn't work as far as I'm aware. Number 5, you're seeing it on screen right now. This is Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. This also, by the way, had Denuvo protection. And if you recall, this was last month's number 1.
It was in like 4 days, wasn't it?
It was a really, really quick crack, yeah. I mean, it's the quickest I think I've seen a sort of AAA Denuvo title actually be cracked.
I mean, no one saw that coming either, to be honest.
No. I mean, obviously, even... It was only about a year ago, actually, that we were getting the run of articles saying, oh, you know, it's the end of PC games piracy and games can't be cracked anymore. And
I believe it a little bit as well.
Well, I've been around a bit too long to believe that kind of talk. If there is DRM, it can be cracked. There's no such thing as uncrackable DRM. Number 6 is another new entry, would you believe? Also Denuvo'd, but not for very long. Tales of Berseria. This is a role-playing game, a JRPG, as a matter of fact. Number 7, Watch Dogs 2. This was also new last month, so it was in January's most pirated chart. It was in fact the second most pirated game in January, behind Resident Evil, which was at number 1. We also reviewed this actually and gave it 89% in our review. I really, really enjoyed Watch Dogs 2. Which surprised me somewhat because, well, actually, I don't know if it did surprise you, because Ubisoft do actually have a really good record of taking not that great originals and then really improving them around. Yeah, they really do. Number 8 is a game that I know you've got some interest in, Sherlock Holmes, The Devil's Daughter. This is another new entry. This was actually cracked on the 28th of February, on the same day actually as Just Cause 3 and Mad Max, because it's obviously not a AAA title. It hasn't had quite the same demand behind it. This is one of those sort of procedural, whodunit, click everything on the screen until you find the clues type game with a bit of... I suppose these are what were the poster boys for narrative-based games before Telltale came along with their current template. Number 9, we've got Pro Evolution Soccer 2017. That's been around for quite some time now.
Been lingering in the chart for quite a while now.
Yes, and your theory actually was that it will probably continue to do so until FIFA 17 gets cracked.
And then drop like a fly, I'd say.
Yeah, I think you're right there. And at number 10, another new entry last month, Far Cry Primal. This was another very big game that people have been asking to be cracked for a long time now, and sure enough, it has been. Now, if you look into the description below, you'll see a full top 20. I may even put the top 25 in there, actually. I'm just going to pick out some highlights from the rest of the chart. We've still got Call of Duty Infinite Warfare at number 12, Batman Arkham Knight at 13. This has been fully cracked now, because that's another game that was sort of half-cracked for quite some time. We've got Rise of the Tomb Raider, which is now dropped down to number 21. Deus Ex Mankind Divided at 23. We've got a new entry at number 24, The Hunter Call of the World, which... I wasn't familiar with this game, but it is apparently a hunting game. And at number 25, a game that actually I know neither of us have got around to playing yet, but we're both really interested in, Berserk and the Band of the Hawk, which is, of course, the Dynasty Warriors style take on the classic manga/anime Berserk.
I mean, it shows how busy you are at the moment, but you haven't got around to playing that because I know how excited you were.
I know. I tell you what, my pile of shame is if my pile of shame falls over, it will kill me. Quite honestly. Right, let's talk about this month's piracy news. Again, we had a well. First of all, actually, before I go on to the main story, I just want to draw attention to the fact our top 10 most pirated games of February 2017. 8 of the games in the top 10 have Denuvo, and I'm putting this in quotation marks, protection.
I mean, just over a month ago, we would not have expected that, to be honest.
It's absolutely amazing how quick the trickle has basically turned into a flood. There's no doubt about it. I mean, to go from, as I said, a year ago, death of PC piracy, to 6 months ago, we're seeing a few cracks, to suddenly pretty much, the majority of stuff is being cracked really quickly now. But our main story is actually staying on the subject of Denuvo. This happened just after we made our last video, actually, on the 5th of February.
It's pretty ironic as well, isn't it?
It's extremely ironic. Yeah, the masters of protection who dedicate themselves to not allowing unauthorized people to access other people's stuff. Well, they basically, I know some people described it as a hack. It wasn't a hack. Denuvo, basically, whoever's in charge of looking after their website, left a load of directories that should have been set to private. These were set to public. So basically, people who were comfortable going around a file structure within a web browser were basically riffling through all of Denuvo's private stuff.
It's so funny, though.
And as you said, the irony is so incredibly acute. I know. So what came out of this hack? Well, quite a lot. I mean, basically, as you can imagine, people jumped on this pretty quickly. It's like, Denuvo is like, some old man who's accidentally allowed his dressing gown to hang open, and everyone was quickly lining up to laugh at its willy. Basically, there was a file that contained all of the I say emails, not really emails. They've got a web form that you fill in with inquiries. And basically, everyone who's entered an inquiry into that web form, the entire correspondence from the last, I think it was something like 2 years, was all there in a database, basically.
There's some pretty funny ones as well.
There were some absolutely hilarious ones. You could find these online. I probably should have cut and pasted a few, actually. But let's put it this way. People have views regarding Denuvo, and they're not afraid to share these with Denuvo. But on a serious, we can laugh at Denuvo and all that for their shoddy idea of security, but there is actually a really serious note behind this. This list of emails, and some of the email or web inquiries as they were, some of these web queries were actually serious web queries from companies like Google and various gaming companies that were inquiring about putting Denuvo shitware in their games. Basically, this database included the email addresses that people had put in, so Denuvo could get back to them, the message themselves, their name, so if they put their real name, that's out there now, and most seriously of all, their IP addresses. Now, obviously, I suspect most of the pirates who were airing their views probably were using VPNs, but this is obviously a really serious privacy issue for people who did put in serious inquiries and now have their IP addresses all over the internet thanks to Denuvo and their top drawer security. I've also actually, now this is something else that somebody found. It's basically a slideshow that Denuvo, this is something that they basically use to sell their rubbish to developers. And if you remember, there was a leak a while ago. I think the estimate was, what was it, $100,000 to license Denuvo?
Oh, it was something like that. It was an extortionate amount.
It was a huge amount. I think it's probably less for indies, but nevertheless, it's such a waste of money. Now, this is dated. Now, first of all, obviously this is a company document. However, it is all over the internet, and we believe that there is a public interest in looking at this document because we've got some concerns over the way they sell their crapware to developers. Now, first of all, you'll notice there's a date in the corner. That's the 18th of October 2016. First of all, we've got the hungry, innovative spirit of a startup, the solid experience of a market leader, with over 300 man-years of development. What?
What is a man-year?
300 man-years of development.
I've heard of one of them.
That kind of sets the tone for what's to follow, really. Now look at this headline, 272 days. And then here it is again, 272 days, exclamation mark. That's how long one of the latest Denuvo protected games from CI Games, Lords of the Fallen, has gone without being cracked. Now let me tell you something about Lords of the Fallen. This was released on the 28th of October 2014, and it was cracked on the 26th of July 2015. Yes, it took a long time to be cracked, but this is when Denuvo was still a fairly unknown quantity, and the crackers were still getting their heads around actually how it can be bypassed. This, as I mentioned, is dated 18th of October 2016. They are still literally bleating about this 15 months later.
The biggest success.
Yes, their biggest success, by the way, was 15 months ago. And the way they word it as well, that's how long it has gone without being cracked. No. That's how long it went. Exactly, without being cracked. It's not a present tense thing. And they also put one of the latest Denuvo protected games. No, it wasn't one of the latest. 2014 is not one of the latest games by a long shot. That's simply unprecedented, and it's a testament to one of Denuvo's core principles: always keep innovating. Because locking games behind a shitty wrapper that is alleged to slow down the performance because of the encryption and decryption, and is also alleged to shorten the life of your hard drive or your solid state drive because of the thrashing that has to take place when it's doing its constant decryption and constant dialing home, and basically inconveniences customers. That's innovation, according to Denuvo. Denuvo Anti-Tamper allows publishers to reap the benefits of stamping out all piracy attempts in the crucial first weeks of a title's release. Now look again, we've got another little subtle change. First of all, 2 days, that's how long it's gone. And then they're already backpedaling within the same paragraph. Well, we're stamping out piracy in the crucial first weeks.
I mean, if you look at the chart again, I mean, Just Cause 3 and Mad Max for 1-2 finish, I mean, disprove that, don't they? And that crucial phase, I don't really think is a thing. It's something they've made up. It will get pirated when it gets pirated.
It's totally made up. How do we know this? Well, have a look at our most pirated games for January 2017. The number one most pirated game was Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. This was cracked literally within days of it being released. It was, I think you mentioned it, 4 days, something like that.
Yes, 4 days.
And yet, it's at number one in the charts. It was one of the best-selling Resident Evil entries. It absolutely demonstrates that, first of all, Denuvo is not protecting anything. Because when a game can't be pirated, there are still going to be people who are determined not to buy it. If they've decided they don't want to buy it, they may decide that they want to pirate it first and then buy it for a fair price later. Or they may just think that full price is too much money. Or they may just only be vaguely interested and think, well, I'll play it for free, but I'm not paying for it. Basically, all of those are not lost sales. So Denuvo aren't actually protecting anything. All they're doing is convincing developers to pay what is rumoured to be north of $100,000 for this protection that doesn't actually even work now. I mean, look, Just Cause 3. I bet they were, in the last meeting with the developers of that, they're saying, hey, look how long we've protected your game. You see, when the Denuvo comes out of that, or when that's correct, no one will be interested in that. No one will be pirating that. Whoomp, up to the top of the chart. Just Cause 3 isn't even that good a game, to be honest. And just to finish off, they say sharks die if they're not constantly moving forward. So where does Denuvo fit in this analogy, though? So they're the sharks. Well, yeah, I'd agree they're sharks. Actually, I'd say they're probably more parasites than sharks, to be honest.
Both stops moving forward as well, not that they ever did move forward.
Well, this is the real key, isn't it? First of all, they're not constantly moving forward. They're moving backwards, and they're dragging the entire games industry back with them. Because they're basically funneling money that should be going into development, should be going into marketing, should be going into, I don't know, developer bonuses even. They're funneling this money. Yeah, exactly. They're funneling this money into their own pockets.
I bet you, though, for the next big game, let's say Mass Effect Andromeda, I bet you it will still have Denuvo.
Of course it will. Of course it will, because these executives, not just at EA, all of the big companies, they all sit there. These people that have, never played a game in their entire lives, they sit there in their suits behind their boardroom tables, and they look at slides like this, and they stroke their chins and they nod, say yes, yeah, 100,000 is nothing, because if we buy this, the money will be rolling in. It'll be rolling in. No, you imbeciles. Employ some economists. Employ someone who actually knows something about the incredibly intricate and subtle ecosystem that exists. And, okay, here's a short version. The pirates are your customers. They're gaming's biggest fans. These are the people who, if they pirate one game, then they'll either spend that money on another game, or they'll spend that money on the same game when it's a decent price later on. Do guys let us know what you think in the comments below. Are we being too harsh on Denuvo? Are we not giving them a fair shot? Do tell us. We don't mind. We're quite happy. If you completely disagree with everything we've said, tell us in the comments. Or if you agree, likewise, tell us in the comments. Do please hit the like and subscribe buttons. Plenty more at parallaxlive.com. Thanks ever so much for watching, and we'll catch you guys in the next video.